Yeah.
Hello everybody, Savat the Mighty here, and I'm back with another Eve Echoes video. In this video, we are going to be continuing the Versus series, and in today we're going to be taking a look at the Dramiel and the Daredevil. So, the fit we're going to be looking at on these ships, and that they're going to be comparing to, is going to be a PVE damage speed tank fit. So, we are going to be taking a close look at the damage of these ships, and compare the speed of these ships, and then take a look at them in combat, and see which one is going to outperform the other. That being said, if you do like my content, please leave a like on the video, subscribe, and ring that notification bell if you want to be notified whenever I do release new content in the future. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first ship we're going to take a look at here is one that I own on the live server, and that is the Angel Dramiel. The Dramiel is actually going to get some bonuses on here. The raw bonuses are going to be plus 50% warp speed, plus 50% warp acceleration, and plus 5 seconds damage control activation time. The damage control activation time is not going to take place in today's battle, as we're not going to have one of those equipped. It's going to get advanced small cannon operation bonus, plus 10% small cannon damage per level, and minus 5% small cannon activation time per level. For every level of advanced frigate command bonus, it's going to get 7.5% additional small cannon tracking speed, and plus 10% small cannon accuracy fall off, giving this ship surprisingly short range still. So let's see. What do we have this ship fit with? In the high slots, which there are 3 of, we have Gisty C-type small autocannons. Each one is doing 151 DPS. With this fit, that autocannon also has a optimal range of 1.5 km, with an accuracy falloff of 10.45, for a total of 11.95 km before it does 50% damage. Its activation time is 2.51 seconds. And tracking speed of 704. In the medium slots, we have a Predator Stasis Webifier that's giving minus 61% flight velocity, has an activation time of 5 seconds, and an optimal range of 14.8 km. We're also going to be using a Predator Warp Scram on both ships, and it has a Warp Jammer strength of 5, activation time of 10 seconds, and an optimal range of 15 km. We have a Vricolakus Small Energy Nosferatu, and it is going to be transferring 39 gigajoules to an optimal range of 6 km, and an accuracy falloff of 3.5 km. Pretty effective. In our low slots, we have a Sinti C-type small afterburner, and a Pithy C-type small shield booster. The small shield booster is going to be boosting for 109 shields, and it can do that every 3.08 seconds. Lastly, we have a Gistum C-type Gyro Stabilizer. Gyro Stabilizer is going to give a raw 5% damage bonus and an activation time adjustment of minus 4.5%. And when it does activate, activation time is a total of 44 seconds for 400% bonus. In our rigs, we have a Cannon Collision Accelerator 3 for a damage bonus of 17.5%, and 2 Cannon Burst Aerator 3s for activation time actually, I have 2 Cannon Collision Accelerators in here, and the activation time bonus I only have 1. So I actually need to change one of these out. We can do that right now. Hopefully I have one here. Cannon Collision. Are you the accelerator? No. Activation time. There we go. Let's put that in. So I'm sorry about that. I actually made a mistake there. Let's get that updated. Perfect. Okay, so Cannon Burst Aerator 3 for 12.5% activation time. Cannon Burst Aerator 3 for the activation time. And a Cannon Collision Accelerator 3 for the damage. I am very sorry about that. That's very unprofessional. I apologize. So let's look at the stats on this ship. Raw damage again is now at 474.18. The defense is a total defense of 5,828, with 1,640 being in the shields, an EM resistance of 10, thermal resistance of 20, kinetic resistance of 40, explosive resistance of 50. It has 1,640 in the armor, with an EM resistance of 50, thermal resistance of 35, kinetic resistance of 25, and explosive resistance of 10. And in the structure, it has 1,457, with 33% resistances across the board. And so this ship can either be armor tanked or shield tanked, pretty much just as effectively. Just really depends on what resistances you want to have on here. Its capacitor is sitting at stable, and this is including the Nosferatu. So it is sitting at a capacitor recharge rate of 6.97 gigajoules a second, and it's cap stable at 70.4%. Its capacitor capacity is 958 gigajoules with a recharge time of 242 seconds. And its maximum power grid with all max stats is 91. Targeting. It has a radar sensor strength of 13 points with a scan resolution of 1,284, a signature radius of 21, and it can lock a maximum of 5 targets. Navigation, the ship goes at 787.05, with a warp preparation time of 0.98, and a warp speed of 7.5 AUs. Overall, it's a pretty speedy ship and can put out quite a bit of damage. Very effective if you're using cannons, and very fun to play if you like doing circles around enemies. Alright, we're finished with this ship. Let's go ahead and jump into the competition. Here we have the Vrs Daredevil. Now, the Vrs Daredevil is a very powerful ship in its own right as well, and it also gets some bonuses, but none of them are just going to be general bonuses. So it's going to get a bonus from Advanced Small Railgun Operation, and it's going to get per level 25% small railgun damage, 10% small railgun accuracy falloff. For the skill Advanced Frigate Command, it's going to get 10% per level of Stasis Webifier Strength, 10% per level for Stasis Webifier Optimal Range, and 10% per level for Warp Disruptor Optimal Range. Now, the Warp Disruptor is not being used in this fit as we are using a Scrambler, so that bonus is useless in this build. In the high slots, which there are 3 of, we have a Corelli C-type small snub-nose railgun. Each one of those is doing 206 DPS, with an optimal range of 2.25 km, an accuracy falloff of 4.86. Not bad, not bad. Its activation time is 2.98 seconds. In the mid slots, we are running a Predator Warp Scram, and it does have an optimal range of 15 km, with a warp jamming of 5. We also have a Vricolakus Small Energy Nosferatu, and it's going to have an optimal range of 6 km, an accuracy falloff of 3.5 km, and it's going to transfer 39 gigajoules per activation. In the low slots, we have a Corellium C-type Magnetic Field Stabilizer. It's going to give us a damage bonus of 5%, an activation time adjustment of minus 4.5%. And while it's activated, it's going to have a 400% increase. We're running a Sinti C-type Small Afterburner. And we also have a Corpi C-type Small Armor Repair. This is going to repair 164 armor per activation. Its activation time is going to be 4.36 seconds. The rigs in this ship, we are going to be looking at 2 polycarbon engine housing for an inertia modifier adjustment of minus 20%. The second one here for minus 20%. And we're going to be using 1 auxiliary thrusters 3 for a flight and velocity adjustment of 20%. If I remember correctly, I did not go over the engineering rigs in the other ship. Just know that they are identical. We kept those the same. So what we're also looking at here is for our combat rigs, we have a railgun collision accelerator for a damage bonus of 17.5%. And should be 2 railgun burst air raiders, which it is in this case. When I was going over the first ship, did not have one in there. So this one does have both of those put in correctly, and they are giving, I didn't look at that there, the 12.5 activation time per each one. So let's look at the stats on this ship. This has an offense of a whopping 618.86 DPS. That is insanely good and much better than the DPS of our counterpart, the Dramiel. And so this ship is going to be able to put out much more damage. For the defense on this ship, it has 1,300 shield hit points, sitting at 5,796 effective hit points overall. EM resistance of 0, thermal resistance of 20, kinetic resistance of 46, explosive resistance of 50. For its armor, it has 1,690 hit points with an EM resistance of 50, a thermal resistance of 35, a kinetic resistance of 36, and an explosive resistance of 10. This ship is definitely wants to be an armor tank, and so that's the direction it leans, unlike the Dramiel, which can do both just as equally. For its structure hit points, it has 1,745 with 33% resistance across the board. The capacitor is sitting at 8.86 gigajoules per second recharge rate, 87.1% cap stable, with a capacitor capacity of 986 gigajoules and a recharge time of 242 seconds. Targeting, it has a radar sensor strength of 14 points, a scan resolution of 988, signature radius of 27, and it can lock a maximum of 5 targets. Navigation is sitting at 724.35, with a warp preparation time of 0.96 seconds, and a warp speed of 5 AUs. So what do we see so far with the comparison of these two ships since we've gone over them? Well, the Daredevil itself does more damage. It does have a tighter area that it can do that damage in before it drops off at 50% damage. Just in case I didn't go over that in full detail, I have a lot of information here. What we're looking at here is the range is 2.25 km, and it does have that fall off of 4.86 km, for a total of at 7.11, it's doing 50% of its damage, so it would be down to 309.43 DPS at that time. However, what's it getting out of the bonuses? Well, the Weber at the minus 91.5% is definitely going to stop targets in their tracks, making them very easy to hit. So what are the comparison and contrasts that we have to actually look at here? Well, the Daredevil has a tracking speed of 688, which is pretty phenomenal. The Dramiel's tracking speed was better. However, this has that huge bonus to the flight adjustment of the Predator Warp Stasis Webifier, and the optimal range being at 22 means it should be able to grab pretty much anything and stop it, making those weapons not need to have nearly as good as a tracking speed. It's not as fast as the counterpart, the Dramiel. However, it does do a whole lot more damage. You're looking at the high 400s, 470s to 618. It's over 100 DPS difference. It's pretty impressive. Just on paper, what would I would say would win? Well, I don't think the speed difference enough. You're looking at 787 on the Dramiel compared to 724 on the Daredevil. I don't think that speed enough is going to be enough to make a huge difference there. I think the speed tanking is going to be fine on each one of these ships. As far as the range difference goes, the Dramiel can hit out to 11.95 for 50% of its damage, where the Daredevil can hit out to 7.11 km for 50% damage. Again, both these ships are going to want to have that very close orbit. I don't think that's going to matter too terribly much on either one of them either. So for the purposes of raw damage, I definitely think the Daredevil is going to be your ship. It's also going to have a bit more utility, being able to use that Weber, and you can also replace that Scram with a the Predator Warp Scram with the Warp Disruptor, and you should be able to get a whole lot more range out of that and be able to lock somebody down, especially if they don't have any type of warp stability, and then make them not move and come up and kill them. One of the big problems with that is depending on your target, well, you're going to be within their Weber range as well. But if you're using that Afterburner, you have them web, they're doing 91%. They're going to have you at 61% less speed at best, which means you're still going to have quite a bit about speed left to speed tank with at your ranges. Ultimately, I would have to say, on paper, I think the Daredevil wins. The Daredevil does look very well. But let's go ahead and jump into some combat and see what's happening. Be right back with the combat clips. Alright, so here we are at the combat encounter with the Dramiel. One of the first things we're going to look at is we're going to go ahead and move off in a direction. And we are going to activate our afterburner, and we'll take a look at our fitting here. And we're going to go to navigation, and we're sitting at 2,274.57. One of the things I didn't show before, which I will show on here as well, just so you can see, it is still running 2 of the polycarbon engine housings and an auxiliary thrusters. The purpose for the 2 polycarbon engine housings is to be able to do tighter orbits. So we definitely want to be able to orbit as close as possible with these ships. And we're going to go out to an anomaly. And we are going to warp in at 0.
Warp drive active.
Now these are tier 10 anomalies that I'm testing these ships out on. We're pretty much just going to do one wave, because these frigates aren't made to, well, be the quickest to kill. Okay, so we're going to set orbit, and we're going to start focus firing. We're going to activate all of our stuff. So it is able to actually keep its orbit at about 2 km and still keep about 1,500 speed. Okay. At this rate, it is having a little bit of trouble hitting the frigate, so it may actually need to slow down a bit to actually be able to hit, even with its tracking bonuses that it's getting. We're going to set orbit on this next test drone. Okay. So as you can see here, we're actually doing pretty decent damage to it whenever we were approaching and whatnot. If we do slow down a bit, which we do have the ability to do, we can go down to about 1,200. I think we'll be okay. Let's see if we can get some damage put in. Yeah, we're starting to do damage a little bit more consistently at this speed. All right. Let's move out and put our speed back up. And let's go ahead and activate our damage. With our damage mod active, we're sitting at 607.54 DPS. It's firing quite quickly. One of the things I would say is let's lower our speed back down as well again. We're not actually being struck, which is fine. We just need to make sure that we can maintain a good enough speed to be able to not be hit. We don't have to be doing thousands and thousands of speed in order to be able to fight effectively. Having the option to have that speed is there. When we need to go fast, we can, but we don't have to. Okay, let's hit our next target there. Still moving at 47% of our normal speed. We are 15 km away, so it might take a little bit of time to get over here. And zoom out a little bit. So this ship is clearing out this wave quite effectively. And activate our web to lock it down. Doing some pretty good damage. Keeping an orbit at that 1 km, doing 8,900. And again, the weapons on these ships shouldn't be able to hit us whatsoever. Pretty useful. And we're only moving 47% of our speed. The one thing that I can say with these ships, activating your damage to get the damage up is going to keep you going, and one of the things that you definitely do want to stay on top of if you are using these ships for PVE purposes. So now that we're into armor, these cannons are doing quite a bit more damage, and they are pretty much chewing through this thing's armor. Another thing that you want to do when doing higher level missions in these, it's actually pretty simple to do the higher level missions. The lower level missions are going to give you a little bit more threat, in my opinion, whenever you have a lot more of the smaller ships. Another thing that you need to be really aware of is webifiers, but even going at these speeds, those webifiers aren't too scary unless you're going to get multiple of them on you. So for storyline missions and whatnot, they can be very scary going into a pack and getting webbed down, but for your basic missions, if you get caught with one web, you don't care. You usually can speed tank the heck out of everything. Okay, so this guy is just about to die. It's actually dead by the time I got done saying that. Let's move over to our last ship. This is also scary, flying directly at it. We probably want to increase our speed to get there as soon as possible and get into our orbit. So we're already starting to be able to apply damage at 15 km out. Okay, and let's reduce our speed back down to about 1,000. Now that we are in orbit of him. And it is going to be able to take out this battleship. As you can see, there's nothing the battleship can do. It is just a sitting duck for our orbiting ways. We're just this small little thing spinning around this giant hunk of a ship, and we are going to eventually blow it up. It is going to take quite some time. Let's make sure that we stay on top of that. We don't even really need to have the Weber activated. The ship wasn't exactly moving to begin with, but we can go ahead and turn it on to help apply that damage, I guess just that little bit better. All right. So where does this sit at? I mean, damage-wise, this ship is sitting, I would say, on the level of good. It's cruiser damage is what we're looking at here. Not a high-end cruiser damage, but your basic cruisers and stuff like that. Sitting at a 474, can get up to 600 while it's activated. It's definitely not bad. We're definitely going to be very safe if you are a frigate pilot as a main. These ships are definitely going to be very awesome for you. And they're going to help you clear out content. Usually the content that you're probably going to be doing is not going to be this, but if you did go into T10 anomalies and stuff like that, as you can see, it shouldn't have any trouble really doing those. And the really cool thing about being fast is you don't have to actually worry about being on zero either, because you can get away from zero very, very quickly. So by the time you kill the ship into the next spawn, I mean, it might be 3 or 4 seconds, you're already in that 3 or 4 seconds, move it 6 to 10 km out, depending on where you actually started off at. So like, for example, we're sitting here at a 35 km off already. We go zipping off in a particular direction, it'll be much, much more. And just to showcase again, 607 DPS, remaining quite cap stable. Again, this is with max skills, but you can expect to actually get these skills if you are focusing, well, probably pretty quickly. Like I said, my alt is actually focusing on this ship exclusively, and well, will be a frigate pilot exclusively and has this ship as the first ship. And that ship is doing him wonders. And I've already almost got all these skills at max. Getting very, very close. So yeah, this battle cruiser is about to go down. Now, doing these T10s, it still is going to take quite a bit of time to do, but you're in no danger. You're really safe. Where this ship is actually really fun in is in the missions. Where is it? So if I went to encounters, so for the advanced missions, it actually cuts through these advanced missions super quickly. And it's real fun to kind of chain do those back to back just to feel a little bit overpowered for those missions. but you can take some damage, especially if you're fighting missiles. The speed tank does work quite well against missiles, but you're still going to take damage whenever you get hit by them, little bits here and there. And all of those little bits can add up, so one of the things you can do is remove the shield booster on here, but if you do remove that shield booster, just try to make sure that you're not going up against anything that's going to have missiles, and then you might be able to get away with putting in more damage or something else that you might fit. Another thing that you can do too is if you're worried about stuff hitting you, you can replace the actual scram here with any type of electronic warfare device that you might like and might think would be useful on the ship. Okay, so this combat here with the one battleship did take us roughly 11 minutes, exactly 11 minutes to be honest, from the start in with our little example to now. Okay. We're going to crank this thing up, and we're just going to go ahead and warp to our exit. Oh, external factors are preventing me from warping. Wonder what that is. There we go.
Warp drive active.
We're going to warp out because I don't want to do all those missions. It can basically do all those missions without really taking any damage whatsoever. It's just going to take the better part of forever. So it did take us about 11 minutes to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go back to base now, and we're going to get the other ship, and we're going to take a look at the combat with that one. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Here we are with the Daredevil. And the first thing that we want to look at for the Daredevil combat is we want to activate our afterburner and see where this ship gets up to in speed. So for navigation, we're sitting at 2,224.79. Very, very good speed indeed. Probably not even going to need to go that fast. Let's go ahead and warp in on the combat. Cosmic Anomaly. Here we go. And let's get started.
Warp drive active.
So this little beast here should just do wonderful things. It's going to have a little bit of trouble applying good damage on the approach. That's fine. Once it gets in there, it's going to do some amazing stuff. Alright, the first thing that we want to do is make sure that we are activating our speed. We're going to go in for an orbit and hit lock up. We want to take out these small ships first. So we can activate those. Focus fire. Orbit. 1,192. Oh man. Alright, we're having a little bit of trouble hitting here. 572, there we go. Let's go ahead and move off of him. Take out our other competition here. We're just going to stop him right in his tracks, and the next thing that we want to do is actually slow down to about 1,000. And slow down to 1,000, hopefully we'll be able to keep a good orbit and apply that damage a whole lot better. Oh yeah, 540 hits. This ship is definitely taking out the frigates quite quickly. Excellent. Let's go ahead and activate our damage. And let's have a look. We're at 792 DPS. This thing is a monster. 1,398. Wow. Okay. Let's go ahead and amp up our speed a little bit. We're actually taking some shots here. So we need to go a little bit faster. Okay. So now we're going to be in orbit of some of the bigger ships. It is literally just melting these ships. It's applying damage, cutting through them just like butter. So this little guy is slowing them down and draining off the energy, just making sure they can't really do anything back to him. Again, the one thing you really got to worry about is getting hit by webs, but since we don't even actually use our full speed, we can always up our speed and get into better positions there. Sitting at the 1 km is great. I want to play around with this a little bit and see it's able to actually keep that 1 km orbit very, very well. And so if we move out, okay, we hit 3 going out to 2. 3 is going to be a little bit weaker, but the 2 km I think we should be just fine at as well. And we should be able to keep orbit here. Let's move up our speed and kind of just play around with that a little bit. So we're sitting at 3. We really don't want to do 3. So let's go back into 1. I think 1's going to be better because at these higher speeds we'll still be sitting at 2. And activate our damage again. I think I may have forgotten that for a little too long. Yeah, this ship is putting out some disgusting damage on a frigate. Perfect. Alright, let's move off of this ship and over to the Megathron. So this is going to be the longest portion of the battle yet again. We should be able to orbit him just fine though. There's really nothing he can do to us. He's not going to hit us. And we're just going to blast him into oblivion. We're just an annoying little fly around this thing. Except this fly has stingers. And it is cutting through that shield. And all it can do is sit there and be scared. We'll even warp disrupt him. You ain't getting away from us. You got 5 points on you now. What you gonna do? It's PVE. He's gonna sit there and die anyway. Alright, so I guess this would be a good time to talk. So this ship now is sitting here. We're at the 5 minute and 20 second marker. So it looks like it's actually doing better by far than our counterpart, the Dramiel, as far as time goes. The Dramiel did get up to 11 minutes. Now, mind you, we still do have a little ways to go here, but we shouldn't be hitting that armor. And I guess we'll be doing about the same damage to the armor. That's one of the things railguns are really good at. They apply their damage very evenly. Well, a little bit more, actually. Alright, so we're good there. Let's activate this again, get that going. But this showcase here was between these two fast frigates. They were both faction frigates. They are doing, both of them are amazing. If you decided to pick up either one of these ships, you can't go wrong. Now, if you were looking at the PVE aspect of this, kind of like I do, and doing their maximum DPS, well, their Daredevil wins all the way. However, the Dramiel has its bonuses as well. Having the warp speed that it does, and also having the ability to have that additional just warp speed, and when it's actual speed, not its activation, you're looking at getting across the galaxy a lot faster. So if you like to move around and do things like, I don't know, risk taking a faction ship through gate camps, that's probably going to be the better of the two. Even though both of them being frigates, they're very good at it as well. They're both very small. Both of them can speed tank. Both of them, the Dramiel itself is actually a faster with the afterburner. So I would imagine it would be faster with the micro warp drive as well. So you're looking, the Dramiel does win in speed. And that's really about it. For mobility, moving around, and getting from point A to point B, the Dramiel is going to win. It is going to do a lot less damage. And it doesn't have the utility of having the awesome 91% webbing slowdown, or the range that the web has. Not that the Dramiel really needs it, but for the Daredevil, having that web means that he can grab somebody, and that might slow him down, let him catch up to them, and start applying his damage all that better, as well as he does have the options to do way more PvP stuff, in my opinion. And this ship is definitely way more PvP orientated. However, the Dramiel is going to be bad at it. The Dramiel is a great place to be if you like cannons as well. So, what's better? Well, I do have to say, for the purposes of this contest, the Daredevil won. It definitely has just slightly less speed than the Dramiel, but can apply so much more damage. As a matter of fact, we're sitting at 8 minutes now, So it does look like it is going to finish this wave before. However, it is going to be fairly close within the time frames as well. So honestly, they're both very good ships. They both speed tank. They're both faction ships. They both look cool. I really don't think you could go wrong with either one. But if you're looking for that maximum damage, definitely go Daredevil. Okay. Cool. So we are just going to set our destination there. And like I said, I'm just going to do the one this time. So before I get out of here, I want to hear from you guys. If you guys have any ideas for the Versus series and two ships that you would like to see going head to head with similar fits and seeing how they perform and which one can outperform the other one, let me know in the comments section below. You can also find me at Twitter at Savat the Mighty, and you can join the Discord and talk to us there. That being said, this was all fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.